The purpose of this short video presentation is to outline what Yasat expects in every lesson, every day, every week. This lesson framework is the connector to all the pieces of the Yasat jigsaw, not the least teacher performance, appraisals, formal and informal classroom observations, unit planning, student and engagement. We've developed the 8 elements to help us build towards achieving our vision. We want to be inspirational, leading-edge international school, dedicated to nurturing outstanding role models, responsible global citizens and informed leaders of the future. But our lesson framework didn't happen by chance. It was intentionally created, steeped in the latest research, workshopped by our teachers and trialled, and now we are implementing it on a full-scale basis. You might like to Google some of John Hattie's presentations or Mazzano's presentations to help build some background on the impact of the teacher on student achievement. Here I'm sharing John Hattie's visible learning elements as well as Mazzano's 9 strategies, effective teaching strategies. I do this because these should be the bread and butter of the effective teacher's teaching repertoire. Our framework is research-based. And taking this on board, our framework guides your teaching at Yasat as we strive to achieve our vision. It helps us build consistency across our school in not only the delivery of lessons, but also the professional development opportunities that we provide throughout the year. It helps us to have consistency in every class, whether it's elementary, middle school or high school, regardless of subject. It gives us that common foundation that we can help moderate learning, improve our practices. And just as a lesson is not linear, neither are the implementation of the 8 elements. Although there is a beginning, and there is a middle, and there is an end, how we get to that is dependent upon each individual teacher. So what I'd like to do now is just to walk through each of the elements to give you some understanding of our expectations. The first one, the essential question, or the I wonder question. We believe in the use of an inquiry approach to our teaching and learning, and the need for students to have an understanding and knowledge of the purpose of the lesson. We know that good questions direct students to dig deeper into content and processes and delve deeper into the subject matter. More importantly, they propel students to learn to ask their own questions. And within a subject, they help focus content on the crucial important parts of that subject. This is more than just letting the students know what they are learning to do in the lesson. It's about connecting prior knowledge to future applications. Essential questions are non-judgmental, they are open-ended, meaningful, purposeful, and they relate to the students. It is through the essential question that we as teachers connect to our students. Our second element is the initiating strategy, or the hook. Now, the purpose of an initiating strategy is to help students frame their thinking and to focus on the concept at hand. The most important part of a lesson occurs during the first 5 minutes. If the activity engages students right away, there will be enough sparks to fly for the rest of the lesson, and your job will be relatively easy. If the activity, however, is not challenging, if it's repetitious, we've done this before, well then there'll be lulls that more often than not result in discipline problems and classroom management issues. The key, of course, is to keep the sparks flying, but it all really depends on how you can spark up your classroom right away. You could simply Google best lesson plan hooks, and you'll have plenty of ideas of how to hook your students into the lesson. Our third element is limiting teacher talk. Now, we all love to talk in the classroom, to our colleagues, to our friends. So we should. After all, we are all teachers. But teacher talk can, but not always, be a root cause of poor behaviour and debilitate students' acquisition of knowledge and skill during a lesson. So reducing teacher talk and allowing more time in lessons for students to be active participants in their learning, we believe is an important aspect of developing outstanding teaching and learning. Our fourth element is the use of graphic organisers. Now, graphic organisers are important and are an effective pedagogical tool for organising content and ideas and facilitating the student's comprehension of newly acquired information. We look at Gardner's theory of multiple intelligence, that the students are better able to learn and internalise information when more than one learning modality is employed. Some graphic organisers present material through visual and spatial modalities, and it reinforces what is taught in the classroom. The use of graphic organisers helps students internalise what they are learning. For today's classroom, nothing is more essential to successful teaching and learning than a strategy-based instruction. It is through the use of specific teaching strategies and learning tools that teachers can help students be more successful learners. Graphic organisers are teaching and learning tools when they're integrated into classroom experience. The students are better able to understand this new material, creating strong visual picture. The graphic organisers support students by enabling them to literally see connections and the relationships between the facts, the information, the terms you're using. Graphic organisers are critical and they have dual functions. They are effective as both a teaching and learning tool and as an instructional strategy. It helps teachers introduce the topic, activate prior knowledge and link it with new information, organise content to be presented, and a visual summary or visually summarise the lesson once it's taught. It helps students' comprehension, helps to identify and address any questions or clarifications needed. The more the children write and record, the better it is for you as a classroom teacher. The fifth element is about differentiated groups. Carol Tomlinson is a leader in this area of differentiation and describes differentiated instruction as factoring students' individual learning styles and levels of readiness first before you design a lesson. Research on the effectiveness of differentiation shows that this method benefits a wide range of students, from those with learning disabilities to those who are considered with high ability or gifted and talented. Differentiated instruction may mean teaching the same material to all the students but using a variety of instructional strategies, or it may require the teacher to deliver lessons at varying levels of difficulty based on the ability of each student. Now, very clearly, teachers who practice differentiation in the classroom, they design lessons based upon students' learning styles. They group students by a shared interest, or sometimes by topic, or even by ability for class-based activities. They assess students' learning using ongoing formative assessment. They manage their classroom, to help create a safe and supportive environment to engage these students. And they continually assess and adjust the lesson content to meet the needs of the students. The sixth element is targeted instructional strategies and active movement. Connected to the differentiated groups is the need to decide on the essential teaching strategy for that small group of students. Educational researchers have known for decades that a student learns best when teaching is targeted to what she or he is ready to learn. If the material is too easy, students can become bored and disengaged. If it is too hard, students will flounder and may choose to misbehave or give up rather than face continued failure. In either case, little is learnt. But if teaching is targeted at what students are ready to learn, powerful progress can be made. So choosing your appropriate teaching strategy is the key to this element. It's not about busy work while you're working with another group of students. It is your direct intervention, checking for understanding, monitoring, providing feedback as you move from group to group. Go back to the earlier slide with the Hattie's visible learning and the Mazzano's 9 teaching strategies, for further reference. The active teacher is roaming around the classroom, identifying the disengaged student and bringing them back on task. The seventh element is a critical one. It's about higher order questioning. In today's world, it's necessary, but it's not sufficient for students to achieve minimal competence in reading and writing and numeracy. Beyond the achievement of this minimal competence, students also need to develop what is often called higher order thinking skills. And this includes critical literacy, critical numeracy, cross-curricular competencies. Now, a useful conceptualisation of higher order thinking skills distinguishes two contexts in which these skills are employed. Contexts where the thought processes are needed to solve problems and make decisions in everyday life and practical applications. And contexts where the mental processes are needed to benefit from instruction, including comparing, evaluating, justifying, making inferences. The ability to employ higher order thinking skills in both these contexts is seen as an essential, a necessity in a rapidly changing world. And the first context, in particular, is being adopted as a starting point for many international assessment programs. After all, isn't this the outcome of implementing the vision of our school? Remember is a key thing. That is, retrieving relevant information from long-term memory. Understanding, determining the meaning of instructional messages, oral, written, and even in graphic communication. We want these kids to be interpreting, classifying, summarising, inferring, comparing, explaining. We want the kids to be able to apply. That is, carrying out or using a procedure in a given situation. See how they execute it, how they implement what they've learnt. We need kids to be able to analyse, break the materials into parts and detect how the parts relate to one another and to the overall structure and purpose of the lesson. These skills of differentiating, organising, attributing. We need kids to be able to evaluate, make good judgments, maybe based on criteria and obviously the standards. Kids have to check and critique their work against, your rubrics that you make for them. And finally, I think higher order questioning really needs kids to create. They need them, to put, their learning together in a coherent way. They need to be able to generate something, to produce something, and that is very useful. And the final element is about summary and reflection. You have to organise your lesson, and you have to develop a really good pacing guide for it, because the closure of the lesson is the time when you wrap up a lesson plan and help students organise the information in a meaningful context, whether it be in their minds, through conversation, or when they're through writing. This helps students better understand what they've learned during the lesson. What difference have you made for them today? It provides a way in which they can apply it to the world around them. A strong closure involves summarising and reflecting on the lesson. It helps students better retain information, and often a brief summary or overview gives life to the next lesson. In order to maximise the lesson, there are a number of tactics which you could use to make the time more organised and productive. End your lesson a little early. Don't try to cover too much material in one go. Leave at least 5 to 8 minutes to finish off the lesson properly. Use a structured plenary reflection to end your lesson. This should be a group or individual reflection on what has been learnt. Ask the pupils or the students in our class to identify 2 or 3 key points that they've learned from the lesson. These can be shared in a small group, either in written, or they could draw, make a cartoon. A review of these points should become a regular feature of their homework routine. The last part of this 8 Elements Effective lesson, the summarise and reflection, is about summarising the learning. Yes, and you set the scene for your next lesson. You need to have clear routines for an organised departure from this class to the next class. And sometimes good behaviour management here is important. Varying the way that the students are dismissed. Row by row, small groups, alphabetical, one by one, after answering a question. This will keep the lesson focused right up there until the end. The whole purpose of the 8 Elements Effective lesson is to build consistency. And I'm sure you'll agree that there's some very important components within these 8 elements that guide effective learning. We want to have an excellent lesson, every day, every week, every term. When we come in and visit and watch, it is evident whether you're well prepared or you're just trying to fake an outstanding lesson. There's plenty of people about to help you. All you need to do is ask. I hope that this outline gives you a greater understanding into the expectations of your teaching and learning in the classroom, and we hope that the 8 elements support you, which I'm sure they will, but if you need to know more, we just encourage you to ask. I look forward to seeing you in action and seeing these elements becoming the day-to-day life of your teaching and learning.